Hi everyone, welcome to week 9 of your Law and Ethics for Pharmacy Technicians course. This week we are covering 2 chapters. We are covering chapter 8, which is on state laws and pharmacy practice. And then in conjunction with that, we're also covering chapter 9, which is about the state boards of pharmacy and Joint Commission. So those two really do go hand in hand. So the first chapter, chapter 8, is all about state laws, and there are state boards of pharmacy that regulate pharmacy practice in each state. So there is a National Association of Boards of Pharmacy that actually has a table for you to go to, so you can find things about your particular state and where your state's laws and rules are in comparison to other states, so that it's just a quick little guide so that you can look up some specific things, so you don't necessarily have to go to your state board site every time you're needing to look something up. So that's a great resource. The Board of Pharmacy basically is there to provide regulations for everything having to do with public health. So obviously it's going to regulate things that you do in the pharmacy, but they're also part of typically like the departments of Health and Human Services and things like that. So there's particular things that are recommended for each state as far as licensure and registration, other types of controls and things like that. But then each state is going to list their minimum requirements for a pharmacy. So this is just one of the things that you're going to see that are part of those minimum requirements. Obviously, having enough space to do what you need to do, right? That counseling area, having that designated counseling area, making sure that you have the equipment and things, making sure that you have a pharmacist on duty, licensure, making sure that that is kept in place. The role of the pharmacy technician is always addressed in this because different states have different requirements for their pharmacy technicians as far as education and certification and licensure and all of those types of things. And this particular chapter also goes in and looks at the actual process of processing prescriptions. What happens? What are the steps that we're going to go through when we process a prescription? So they're going to go through that in this particular chapter. How to maintain your electronic files, what's the difference between a generic and brand, how do we label our prescriptions, all of those types of things are part of what we regulate at the state level. So that is this particular chapter. The other chapter we're looking at is chapter 9, which is specifically about state boards of pharmacy and the Joint Commission. So they're going to talk about, again, some of those things that we all have in common, how it is put together, what it actually covers. What does your state board of pharmacy actually cover? So we're going to get into some more specifics of the state board's function, whereas the previous chapter was more focused on the things that we do under the state guidelines. This is going to talk about what are some of the things that the state board is actually going to regulate, how they're going to enforce them, what are they responsible for, things about licensing and renewing your license, collecting data, making sure that they, enforce those laws and rules, and those types of things. So, and especially they're going to look at things like, the pharmacist license and the continuing ed requirements and, getting inspected by the state board, certification of pharmacy techs. So all of those types of regs, as well as what you would find for a facility, specific types of facility, is going to be covered in this particular chapter. And then how all of those work in conjunction with the Joint Commission. So the Joint Commission is basically an independent nonprofit organization that is accrediting health services to make sure that we meet a certain standard of care. And so it's very important that we meet Joint Commission standards so that we can remain accredited. So that's what they're going to talk about too, and how those all kind of interweave together. So if you have any problems or questions with this week's material, please make sure that you're reaching out to me, and have a great week.